You're glaring at who? Tomorrow you're going overseas. Yes, I was gazing at Nancy, but only because she had advised me to quit my work for the most absurd reason. And to top it all off, I had beer all over my head. If someone were in my position, they would be giving me the death glare. I was there frozen in place until a man stepped out of the crowd to come speak with me. He only uttered one thing. "You're free now." I answered, "Thanks for waiting," as I glanced at President Williams. Will Grant is my name. I am 53 years old and the head of sales at the corporate office of a jewelry store. I used to think that guys who worked in jewelry stores were boring, but I've been doing this for 30 years, having started right out of college. Why? Since I enjoy seeing my customers' smiles. Hearing a thank you lifts my spirits no matter how difficult my day has been. A meeting including staff members from other jewelry stores was arranged in the midst of all of this. My life, which had been going well, abruptly changed at that point. The event was held in early October, just as the temperature began to drop. The business reserved a sizable space, ensuring that there would be no talk about work and only enjoyment. I was having a conversation with a jewelry store employee when Charles Brown, the president of my company, and his spouse, Nancy, happened to stroll by. Given that they both owned jewelry businesses and were 64 years old, it was obvious that they took great care in how they looked. A long time has passed. "How are you finding the fun?" Brown inquired. "You're the reason I'm having so much fun. How is your spouse faring?" I answered. I greeted Brown and then made an attempt to talk to Nancy, but instead of speaking, she simply gazed at the champagne glass she was holding. I apologized for that. Brown said, "My wife seems to be in a bit of a mood." "No, if I did something to upset her, I sincerely apologize," I replied. "No, it's just that she tends to get quiet when anything bothers her. Don't stress over it." Nancy is completely different from Brown, who I connect with for business quite a bit, and I believe he likes me. When she sees me, she usually stops talking. I'm never sure what to do with her because she's always been this way. I'm going to go greet the presidents of some more companies now. I said, "I sincerely appreciate you stopping by." "Thank you," and Brown left. Nancy didn't seem to be following him, which surprised me. Nevertheless, I figured she wouldn't talk to me, so I made the decision to go first. "Madam, if you'll excuse me, I'll be heading out as well," I replied. "Remain still." She said, "I need to talk to you." "Talk with me." It was Nancy's first conversation with me ever. Though I did my best not to show it, I was surprised. It couldn't be good news for me if she was striking up the discussion. She made a startling statement and grinned just as I was about to think that. "I'd like you to quit the company." "What? Why did you say that suddenly?" Confused, I asked. "Actually, there's talk of me taking over your position." Her abrupt reply startled me so much that I didn't even realize what she was saying. Since I started working for this company right out of college, I'd given it my all, but Nancy was effortlessly taking that away. She had no motive to step in unless someone quit, as there was always enough number of employees at my place of employment. This was excessive. I had been making contributions to the business. "Alas, it's already too late. I've informed everyone that I'm taking over already," she said. "However, why? Is the president aware of this at all?" I inquired. "The truth is, we need some extra money," Nancy whispered in my ear, grinning. "So please keep this between us." I moved away reflexively at her startling remarks. I was a family-oriented man, so I didn't understand a word she said. "Anyway, make sure you're out within 3 months, okay?" she responded. "I'm not quitting." I gave Nancy a determined gaze. She poured the beer she was holding all over my head at that very instant. My rage peaked when I saw how absurd the scenario was and realized I was soaked. I gave Nancy a furious stare. Brown had just come back from his rounds of introductions. "You're glaring at who? Tomorrow you're going overseas," he announced. "What? Why would you say that?" Startled, I inquired. "It takes bravery to glare at my wife in that way. You cannot hold grumbles about being moved around." Yes, I was giving Nancy a hard time, but it was because she had abruptly told me to resign from my work with a ridiculous excuse. And to top it all off, my head was dripping with beer, and I was saturated. In this case, anyone would be giving a death gaze. However, Brown had the arrogance to tell me I was being moved overseas without knowing the whole picture. I questioned, "Are you serious?" The throng approached me as I was motionless and immobilized, and he whispered just one word to me, "You're free now." James William, the head of the biggest jewelry company in the business, was the man who approached me out of the blue. Not much younger than Brown, he is 60 years old, but he started his empire from nothing. I answered, turning to face President Williams, "Thank you for waiting." When Brown and Nancy saw this encounter, they stood staring at us with their mouths agape. They were unable to comprehend the situation. They never imagined, after all, that I would be talking to the president of the biggest firm in the sector. "Wait, are you telling me you know President Williams?" Brown questioned, taken aback. "Yes, we do know one another. We've spoken on a couple occasions." "What exactly did you talk about?" Even Brown, who is typically somewhat conceited, didn't appear to be able to resist President Williams. He was asking me questions and appeared a little uneasy. There was a throng gathered around, and Brown was obviously speaking carefully. "Maybe I should clarify," Williams said. "Please do," came back from Brown. "I'm grateful. Actually, I've been considering hiring Will for a while now." Nancy and Brown appeared even more astonished upon hearing such statements. "Hiring him? How long ago is that? Why he too?" "Because he's excellent, of course, I think." Approximately a year prior, I raised the matter. I think I told Brown that I was thinking of quitting the company too. The fact is that I told Brown that I wanted to retire approximately a year ago after considering changing careers. He did, however, persuade me to stay by stating that they would require me, and that the workload would grow. I made multiple attempts to step down, but Brown never approved of it. Furthermore, I was unable to locate a new employment that met my requirements. Ultimately, I continued to work at Brown's request. He was behaving as though he didn't recall me ever wanting to give up, though. President Williams contacted me about joining his company shortly after that. I have never heard of something similar. Though I didn't explicitly say it, I did let you know that I plan to depart. Nancy, what is this? Have you heard anything concerning this? As Brown finally began to make sense of the situation, he turned to face Nancy. Nancy gave him a stern shake of the head. Although Nancy was nominally employed by the company, it was understandable that she was unaware of its existence, given her minimal engagement in day-to-day activities. But wouldn't it be better if he just quit instead of getting transferred? Why is that? Nancy, who had previously boasted, began frantically explaining, realizing she hadn't yet revealed that she planned to work in my place. "I'll take his place, so it'll be fine," she said. "Oh, you think you can close deals like he does?" "Obviously. Aren't I your wife?" "Indeed. You must be intelligent enough to manage this work with ease if you're my wife, right?" Brown and Nancy seemed to determine that she could take my place after they were momentarily stunned to learn that I had been recruited by the leading company in the industry. Brown stopped trying to stop me from leaving, so to speak. "You're correct. If so, it's generally best if you give up straight away. Yes, it appears that would be more advantageous for the business. You don't need to come in starting tomorrow because there is no need for a handover." The two of them continued advancing the topic while I remained silent. However, since I've been wanting to leave this organization for a while, this was exactly the result I had hoped for. Comprehensive. If that's the case, I'll tender my resignation immediately. Oh, please, hurry up. Have you spent the entire time carrying a resignation letter? Yes. You never know what could happen. Remaining composed, I took the resignation letter out of my suit's inside pocket. I thought you were pretty capable, but crossing my wife was your downfall. He not only gave me a stare, but he also began accusing me. What a horrible guy, even still. President Williams, what is this man even capable of? President Williams and those around him were obviously shocked by their strong remarks. Throughout my nearly 30-year employment with this organization, I have never experienced humiliation quite like this. I never realized Brown could be this terrible. I identified so deeply with President Williams's concept of freedom because of this. Apart from that, I hadn't been that upset. I had been frustrated that I couldn't quit. But now, I sincerely appreciate that President Williams contacted me regarding the position. So, with that settled, I won't be coming in from tomorrow, right? That's what I've been saying. Or are you just not that smart after all? Hey, watch what you say in front of people. It isn't equitable. It was obvious that they were both excited to get rid of me so they could begin haggling with designers. Nancy tried, although unsuccessfully, to defend me, but she was the one who initiated this whole thing. Attempting to push back at this point would only result in my total defeat. President Williams said nothing, perhaps thinking the same thing as me. Comprehensive. I'm going to depart now. I seem to have caused a bit of tension, so I'll excuse myself as well. Brown giggled as President Williams, and I started to leave the celebration. He presumably assumed we were retreating, vanquished. It appears that President Williams lacks a talent discernment. It will not be long before we surpass them. Exactly. It won't be long till we top the charts. I spun around hard when I heard those words coming from behind. Though I had intended to walk away silently, their haughtiness was beginning to irritate me. More to the point, they were making fun of President Williams, who had been so gracious as to extend me a fresh invitation. I could not overlook that. President Williams murmured something at that point. You two have really made a huge mistake, haven't you? What do you mean by that? Are you forgetting? Will is the reason your business gained recognition. Brown had stated he wanted the company to gain more notoriety approximately a year prior. However, no one was eager to work with the organization because of their lackluster track record. At that point, he insisted that I find a way to improve the company's standing. I could have simply walked away from it at the time, and I had wanted to quit. I could have declined then as well, but at the time I was unable to decline an assignment. I was forced to obey Brown's directions because, at the time, there were no offers for me to be hired by other organizations. Things would have been different if I had secured a new employment at that time. I was able to locate stores that would be interested in carrying our jewelry, so I went there in person and made deals to sell them. Additionally, I increased the business's internet sales presence. I made a big contribution, and I even had a project planned with a foreign artist. However, I suppose that transaction is now off the table. What? Why didn't you speak up sooner? That is deceptive. Behind your back, Brown and you would be in that, wouldn't that? I felt the sparks fly from my eyes to Brown's at that very moment. Although I had arranged a meeting with the well-known artist, no formal agreement had been reached as of yet. Besides, I was liked personally by the artists, and there was no assurance Nancy would get her way. All right, I'll keep you on until the sale is completed. That should work, correct? Why are you behaving so arrogantly? Already I'm giving up. You think you can just quit like that? He's told me I'm fired, threatened to move me overseas, and now wants me to stay on a little bit longer. This guy's nerve. What you say makes no difference. I'm giving up. There are numerous witnesses present. Hold on. I must speak with you. Please, just relax. Brown appeared on the verge of losing it when Nancy intervened, attempting to intervene. What more could she say? I pondered now. I will assume his position. Is that acceptable? Is that true? Yes, I'm studying English now, so I think I can manage. When Brown heard those remarks, he smiled. Well, you ought to have said that sooner if that's the case. I never would have attempted to hold you. Sorry, I only just started learning English, and I wasn't very confident. All well then, no issue. You can leave. You're no longer needed here. R gave me a shoulder push that nearly sent me down. All right, Will, let's go. We are no longer suitable here. You're correct, of course. It just sounds like a loser's wail, whatever you say. Brown gave a few closing remarks, and President Williams and I departed the event. I got official word that my resignation was accepted a week later. I called President Williams as soon as I received the notification and began my new job. Although most things are familiar because it's the same industry, there is still a lot to learn in the beginning. How are things going? Are you able to make it here, in your opinion? President Williams, I intend to. I sincerely appreciate your hiring me. No, you're worth every bit of it. Despite his statement, I couldn't get the feeling that I wasn't really helping. but I felt like I could accomplish my best work because everyone at my new job was so kind and encouraging. After starting my new job, I received a call while working for around 2 weeks. My former employer was identified by the caller ID. I responded since I couldn't turn it down in case there was a problem with my resignation. "Hello, this is Will. Would you please return? This is just getting out of hand." Brown's panicked voice could be heard on the other end. Nancy had not been learning English at all. It found out once he was given some space to talk. Although she seemed incapable of even carrying on a simple conversation, I was informed that she possessed the abilities to manage business transactions. Brown had gone with Nancy to a negotiation with an international artist, but she spoke without warning and only used wildly expressive gestures to get her point across. It was a complete fiasco. "We're going to lose the collaborative arrangement if things continue to proceed this way. Could you please return?" What a wonderfully practical request that is. In addition, I currently work for President Williams. Please accept my payment. I just ask that you manage the negotiations. Brown had obviously run out of people to turn to when he reached out to me. Perhaps nobody remained who would have been willing to assist Brown. "Nothing you say will make me think otherwise. I work for you no longer." "How come you're saying that? I employed you for 30 years, and yet the way things ended was pretty awful. Don't you remember?" In this chat with Brown, I felt myself unusually calm, perhaps because I had gained some perspective. Nevertheless, I wanted to get off this call as soon as possible because I was at work. Brown then added something else though. "All right, you may get rehired on your terms. How does that sound? Does that mean you'll listen to everything I ask for?" While I can't guarantee anything, I'll try my best. We ultimately had to rely on translation applications since she was illiterate in English. Given how poorly he treated me, it is obvious that he was desperate because he would not be saying this to me. I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to betray President Williams. Isn't it just the case that the other company pays more? You're merely a rapacious money lover. Cash? No, that isn't the only issue. You wouldn't comprehend something that is more significant in this situation. When I said my piece, Brown didn't appear to understand. Why should a person such as myself be involved in this mess? I'm sorry to hear that, but you might want to consider finding another solution. An additional remedy? Similar to what? Tell me. Asterisk, why should I have to come up with ideas? Asterisk, I thought to myself. However, I was tired of being forced into this any longer. I searched my mind for a solution to get out of this predicament. For example, you could hire someone new, or maybe you could start learning English yourself. I have to learn English, and I don't have the money to pay anyone. Ludicrous. If you don't make the effort yourself, you won't achieve anything. I questioned how this man had risen to the position of president of a jewelry company at that very moment. Then it dawned on me. Brown was the president of the third generation. He most likely had little drive or goal as a child and just inherited the business as it happened. Attempt? That is the purpose of employees. I'm just going to watch from the sidelines. I completely get what you're saying. Do not contact me again, please. Wait, we're not done talking. I had to end the call, but Brown still appeared to have more to say. He deserves my gratitude because I even offered him some advice. Ultimately, this is no longer relevant to me. I simply hope that he doesn't bother me anymore. I got the chance to meet and negotiate with the foreign artist after some time. He said Brown had attempted to utilize a translation software out of the blue, which led to worry when the conversation didn't go anywhere. The artist turned down the opportunity to work together. The artist contacted me as soon as he learned that I was employed by another organization. The talks proceeded without any issues, and we were able to prepare everything in time for the product launch. However, Brown, who I had assumed I would never work with again, stormed into my new company just as things were coming to a close. Where is Will right now? Now get him out of here. I must speak with him. Brown was yelling, and there was a group of people gathered in the lobby when I got to work in the morning. I was surprised he would go this far. Perhaps I had misjudged him. He was yelling my name, so even though I didn't want to get involved, I couldn't exactly act as though I didn't hear him. Having no other option, I forced my way through the throng and made my way over to Brown. He turned to face me, an angry crimson in the cheeks. What is it that you need? We're no longer in contact, correct? At last you've arrived. I must speak with you. If this is about the artist collaboration, I'm sorry, but that was your mistake. I figure he was upset that the project involving the well-known artist didn't work out and believed I had taken advantage of the opportunity. Given Brown's tendency toward pride, I assumed he was furious, but it seems there was more to his stormy entrance into the organization. I don't want to talk about that. Simply step outside. Brown blinked off my attempt to stop him and walked out. I was forced to email President Williams to explain the circumstances. He answered right away, saying that as long as it didn't take too long, everything would be ok. I then headed to the park in front of the business where Brown had disappeared to. At last. You did things slowly. So specifically, what are you hoping to discuss? I think my wife is cheating on me. Are you familiar with it at all? I froze for a second when I heard Brown use the word cheating. Is Nancy lying to you? That was something I had never heard of before. However, I had a hint, didn't I? I thought back to what had happened at the corporate gathering. Nancy had behaved a little strangely that evening. Perhaps she was hinting about her affair in that talk. I'm not sure, but she did mention that she needed money, so perhaps that's why. She claimed to have spent a fortune on someone. Honestly, I had no idea if Nancy was having an affair, although she hadn't stated it clearly. I wasn't comfortable with my supposition. The fact that she had wanted me to hide it from Brown bothered me, though. Perhaps her goal was to lessen the likelihood that her infidelity would be found out. Asterisk, if that's the case, she shouldn't have cheated in the first place. Asterisk, I couldn't help but think. So she has been making fun of me the entire time. But do you genuinely possess any evidence of her infidelity? We don't know yet, do we? No, but I felt that something wasn't quite right. So far, all I have are her confessions. Brown appeared to have sensed a problem for some time. His hands were balled into fists, and his face was flushed scarlet. So what are you planning to do now? Isn't that clear? I'm ejecting her. That's the only thing involved. I see. I'll be heading that way then. I thought that by giving counsel, I had done enough after all that I had gone through. I went to leave, thinking that at last I could get away from the situation, but Brown grabbed my arm. Hold on. We haven't stopped talking yet. But haven't you already figured out the issue with the cheating? I want to rehire you after I get rid of her. How would you respond? Grinning, he spoke as though this was the main topic of discussion. It seemed that ever since he had suspicions about Nancy's affair, Brown had been considering hiring me again. You would prefer to work somewhere you are comfortable with, right? Please return now. What? What topic are you discussing? Give me a break from your contempt. What are you saying? Isn't that a decent offer? Did Brown really believe I would leave my current position and return to his business? How was he so innocent? Obviously, this is a poor deal. I did tell you, did I not? I will not be returning. Hold on. Wait. All right, I'll give you better terms. Simply return. I'm leaving no matter what you have to offer. I'll never turn on President Williams. He obviously had high expectations of me, and he must have believed that everything would work out in his favor in the end. However, when I persisted in saying no, he eventually gave up. Why? Why are people avoiding me? Is Williams's business really that excellent? Indeed, it's a great place to work, and everyone there is kind. Why am I the only one dealing with this? Brown seemed to believe that his pain was unique. Why? All of this is the result of your own behavior. What did you just say? I'm saying that it's all your fault for what happened in the past. Everything is returning to you. After hearing what I had to say, Brown was even angrier. This was not working out. At that moment, I saw 2 police cars pulling up from the distance. Presumably, a few workers who were positioned close to the business door anticipated this and alerted the authorities. The police appear to be approaching. Do you feel comfortable with that? Cops. Why are they visiting this location? Because you've been yelling at me for no good reason. Knowing that it would not be good to get arrested, he pivoted and departed rapidly. You understand that I'm not someone who is easily defeated, but for once, you really ought to attempt looking ahead. You seem to be demeaning me. Wait, this isn't finished yet. When I gave the cops the rundown, they decided to give up on pursuing Brown. I thought Brown would have time to follow up, even after saying those things. He was most likely going to be occupied with obtaining proof of Nancy's extramarital affair with the man she knew. I couldn't help but sympathize a little bit when I thought about Brown's future, one that was only going to get harder. Brown, who wasn't particularly fast, was still in the middle of the vast park. A ball from an elementary school student struck him hard while I was watching, causing him to collapse immediately. I came to see that bad deeds do, in fact, come back to haunt you after seeing Brown in that way. I found out about 2 weeks later that Nancy had indeed been ejected from both the company and their house by Brown. Remarkably, the company was mostly unaffected, and there were no reports of insolvency. However, Brown found it difficult to concentrate on his work due to his disbelief about Nancy's infidelity. He began seeing a psychiatrist shortly after the divorce and progressively became more dependent on medicine. He thus started dozing off at work, which led to major issues with his business partners. After learning of it, Brown's father made the decision that Brown could not continue as president and had him step down. Following that, Brown's father named a capable new president by utilizing his contacts. When Nancy was fired from the job, her lover who had been having an affair came out to be after her money. Nancy eventually became a shadow of her former self after being heartbroken by the split. In addition to requesting reimbursement from Nancy and her lover for their affair, Brown also filed for damages from Nancy for the losses the company suffered. He got the money in full, but nobody knows what became of Nancy after that. I happened to run into Brown again just now. It was at a park in the city center, and it had been roughly 6 months since his last visit to me. I spotted Brown drinking beer in the middle of the day and yelling while I was walking by for work. Why in the world do you allow children to play here? I'm currently going through a lot. The parents swiftly dragged the terrified kids away from Brown so they could be safe. Officers surrounded him, apparently because someone had phoned the police. It appeared to be quite the debate, even if I couldn't hear what was being said from where I was. Following some back and forth, the cops removed Brown. I've been doing well under President Williams ever since. The company's reputation has increased dramatically, and the collaboration with the foreign artist went well. Even though we were already among the biggest businesses in the sector, we are now well known across the globe. I'm so glad I recruited you. I'm grateful. No, you should be thanking me. You saved me from the depths of hell. What the heck? That's a little excessive, but you might not be totally off. I make jokes like these with President Williams these days, always thinking of ways to increase the company's profile and pay him back for all that he has done.